The Min Heejin and Hybe feud continues. It seems New Jeans and their parents have picked their side. Not only that, but people speculate that New Jeans are being sabotaged. Hello, I am Kpop Waltz and welcome to my channel. So a lot has happened recently, including Min Heejin and Hybe going to court on the 17th of May and New Jeans picking their side. Not only that, but emails and letters from Min Heejin and the parents of New Jeans have come out to the public. So we're going to talk about all of that today. But first, I want to talk about Illit and the similarities to New Jeans because this seems to be a really hot topic right now. Now, Illit has been accused of copying New Jeans since the beginning of their debut. It has been an ongoing thing, but it seems to have gotten bigger now that Min Heejin has spoken out about it. And the truth is, I can see why. Min Heejin created the concept, or she implemented the concept onto New Jeans of that Y2K late 90s style feel. That was their concept. That was for New Jeans, and nobody in K-pop at the time had done it before. But then when New Jeans debuted with this concept, they saw really great success, and when that happens, usually it is bound to be replicated because of the success that it has seen. Now, Illit is probably the most prominent example of replicating the New Jeans formula because their styling, their visuals, their vibe, their music videos just scream New Jeans concept. It is very similar. Even their album covers, New Jeans album covers have stickers on it. It's very playful, very teen-like, very 90s. Early 2000s, and it seems Illit have also done the same thing. Obviously, when we talk about Illit, we're talking about the adults, we're talking about B-List Lab, people who work in the creative space for Illit because they're idols and their kids on top of that. They just show up to the office and they're asked to take pictures or be in the music video. Now, not only the album covers and the music video visuals or the visual styling in all, but also their hanbok photos for the Chuseok holiday. Those pictures are also practically identical. It's just different girls in sort of a different setting. It's more or less the same. Netizens weren't very happy, and New Jeans fans were also not really happy because it does seem like B-Left Lab is not putting in any effort to be creative. It just seems like they're taking what they know is popular or what they know works and just replicating it and putting their own girls in it. Now, another big thing that has been circulating is Illit copying the New Jeans choreography. Their choreographer came out and said that he doesn't understand why B-List Lab and Hybe would allow another group under Hybe to use the same choreography as New Jeans, or a choreography that was created for New Jeans. Choreography is a big gray area when it comes to dance. It is a very huge gray area. We have seen accusations of copying and plagiarism from the 80s versus Vata situation, where Vata choreographed a dance for Zico's song, and he stated that the choreography was very original, that it was his own work, where the first move of the song is literally the point dance of 80s Say My Name song. Now, the choreographer Anze Scoob did come out and explain that in terms of dance plagiarism, most of the times you can't really plagiarize a move, but when it is a sequence of moves done exactly the same way, that does have grounds for plagiarism. Unfortunately, with dance, you cannot copyright a move exactly. So it turns into a really huge gray area whereby dance is dance and anybody can use the move unless you create a specific move that isn't already existing. So for New Jeans choreographers to prove that Illit plagiarized their dance, it would have to show that Illit did not modify the dance in any kind of way, and that the dance that was stolen was original and that it was a sequence of moves that had been grouped together. If not, they will probably have a really hard time trying to prove that it was plagiarized, because dance is dance and you can't really copyright or gatekeep, I guess, dance. So in terms of music, a lot of people said that they feel like Illit's Magnetic could have easily been a New Jeans song. I personally don't believe that. I think Illit's sound is quite different from New Jeans sound. If anything, I would say New Jeans sound is different from Illit. Illit just feels like a regular, basic, cutesy K-pop song. It just feels like it's in the K-pop genre. I think it's because now a lot of groups do a lot more girl crush than they used to. So I think everybody's so used to hearing girl crush that when you hear a basic cutesy song that just feels very K-pop, it feels like you can draw the lines between said group and another group. I personally don't think so, but of course you are free to have your own opinion on this. Another reason I think people hear New Jeans when they hear Illit's music is because the comparisons had already been drawn from the beginning that Illit is very similar to New Jeans. So I feel like everyone's brains were almost wired to hear New Jeans when they heard Illit's music. Now I think it's worth mentioning that Min Heejin has been upset because Lift Lab and Hybe used the concept that she created for New Jeans and used it for Illit. But it has to be said that her concept, if you look deeper into it, is not as unique as she's claiming it to be. Now, I did say that Min Heejin's concept is relatively new to K-pop because nobody's done the late 90s Y2K concept, but a lot of the inspiration that went into New Jeans' concept comes from a lot of J-pop, especially from the 90s and the early 2000s. This includes her concept for their debut song, Attention, where they were dancing in the stadium. That is almost a replica of the J-pop girl group Speed from the 90s. So I think it's a little odd that she's going on about being original and her creative work when a lot of her work as well is inspired or almost a nod to the 90s and J-pop. And I don't think I remember her mentioning any of this because apparently when she was interviewed about whether or not she was inspired by 90s and early 2000s J-pop, she said no, she wasn't. When if you look at the evidence, it is clear that she was inspired by them or she did take notes from them. Again, that is just my personal opinion. Moving on to an even bigger thing, which is the court case between Hybe and Min Heejin. They were in court on the 17th of May because Min Heejin wanted to petition the court to ban Hybe from exercising their voting rights at the next shareholders meeting for Ador, because if Hybe is allowed to vote, then Min Heejin is likely to get fired, and if they're not, she might have a chance of surviving. Now, personally, for me, this whole court case just feels like there's underlying problems between Min Heejin and Hybe, and these are all just excuses or sort of unrelated reasons for this feud between the two parties, because I don't think anything that has been said, anything that has been shown explains why the problems between them are so big and why we have to go to extremes just because of possibly the whole Illit and New Jeans situation. It just feels like this is a very small part of a much bigger problem. Both sides submitted evidence into the court to be reviewed, and I gotta tell you, Hybe has nothing, because they submitted text messages from Min Heejin's Kakao Talk and they were rejected. The text messages were basically their way of saying that Min Heejin doesn't really care about the girls because she was bad-mouthing them and she was calling them fat in the text messages. Now, these are not verified, okay? These sources that I got the text messages from are not a verified source, but that's basically what Hybe submitted. They also accused her of using a shaman, going to a shaman to ask for advice, and all of it was thrown out of the court. The court, they rejected everything. It was stupid. It doesn't really make sense. So they've got no leg to stand on. As for Min Heejin's side, they submitted an email that Min Heejin had sent to Hybe management to basically complain or basically to ask for better services when it came to New Jeans promotion, when it came to the PR team, because she says that it doesn't seem like they're working to their fullest potential in the email. because she says that they're not doing enough for New Jeans, for their promotion, for their PR. Even their brand synergy team apparently made some mistakes that the label themselves, Ador, had to correct. So some of the things that she mentions in the email is that Ador, like any other subsidiary under Hybe, pays a service fee to Hybe for their legal, HR, PR, and IT services. However, it seems that they're not satisfied with the services that they've received in return, because there's been times when the PR team has been biased against New Jeans, where they didn't report on certain achievements that New Jeans had achievements that have not been seen in 30 years of K-pop. And she says that the PR team were very nonchalant about everything, and they didn't feel the need or the urgency to report it to the public. Not only that, but on the day that New Jeans' Tokyo Dome tour was announced, the PR team announced the Hybe contract with UMG, which almost overshadowed the Tokyo Dome tour, because they made it seem like the UMG contract was a bigger achievement than New Jeans being able to have their concert in the Tokyo Dome. Now, the contract with UMG is also something that she showed very great disapproval for in her email. In the email, she talks about how Hybe has an exclusive 10-year contract with UMG, which isn't beneficial for New Jeans. UMG's services don't suit their rapid growth. She said Hybe's exclusive 10-year contract with UMG does not create a competitive environment whereby UMG feels that they have to work to their fullest potential to give them the best services in order to remain in a contract with Hybe, because now they have an exclusive 10-year contract. There is no competition. She also mentions that it feels like Hybe is more focused on the conglomeracy and the business side more than it is focused on growing the labels and nurturing the artists. She talks about how Hybe is actually losing money from the companies that they've acquired as opposed to making a profit, which is something that she touched on in the press conference that she had after the audit, where she says that Park Ji-woon received a very big incentive despite losing money, because he is the CEO of Hybe. Now, the thing that caught everybody's attention, that is a very huge talking point and is a possible turning point for Min Heejin and New Jeans, is that she talks about how Hybe and especially Bang PD asked her to buy 10,000 albums in order to surpass aespa's record of album sales in the first week. She says that she refused this request and did not do any of that because that is equivalent to chart manipulation and album pushing. She does go on to say that this is a normal thing for Hybe groups and Hybe labels to do, and that the money is made back through fan meetings and fan signings. In order to reveal the truth, Min Heejin just threw all of the subsidiary labels under Hybe and their groups under the bus, because now we have to question whether these other groups in these other labels under Hybe are also album pushing and participating in these practices. Hybe's audit team allegedly found texts between Min Heejin, her vice CEO, and another member of staff talking about what seems like embezzlement. Now, I don't know how legit these texts are because they do come from Hybe, and considering Hybe and Min Heejin are in a very heated feud right now, I almost don't believe anything from either side unless it is verified through a court. Min Heejin sent a second email to Hybe and B-Lift Lab, and the email included a letter that the parents of New Jeans had written. Now, in the letter, the parents basically asked for an explanation from Hybe and B-Lift Lab, but mostly Hybe, as to why it is that they debuted another girl group that has very striking similarities to New Jeans. They also expressed their disapproval of Hybe and B-Lift Lab using New Jeans as a sort of marketing strategy for Illit. It seems they also expressed their disapproval of Hybe and B-Lift Lab using the same marketing strategy that Ador used for New Jeans for Illit. Now, in terms of marketing Illit the same way that Min Heejin marketed New Jeans, I don't really think you can claim copying or exclusivity. I think Hybe looked at it and said this is what worked for them. They are young girls and it will probably work for Illit because they are targeting the same market group. But you cannot actually claim to own a marketing strategy such as having them on a 3D billboard or having them go to fashion shows before they even debuted, because both New Jeans and Illit were able to do that. Now, another thing that I find really interesting is that when it comes to the whole thing with the concept, the plagiarism issue, it really does depend on what clause or what kind of contract Min Heejin signed with Hybe. Because if in her contract it states that she has exclusive rights to the creative concept that she gives her groups, then yes, possibly there is grounds for a lawsuit. But if that isn't in her contract, then technically Hybe might own her concept and her ideas. Hear me out and please correct me if I am wrong. But Min Heejin's concept for New Jeans and everything that she's done for New Jeans has been under the Hybe umbrella, and it has been done using Hybe resources. A lot of the times when that happens, if you don't sign a contract that specifically states that even though you were using company resources for your project, that your project is yours exclusively or you own the rights to said project, then a lot of the times it ends up belonging to the company whose resources you used to create the product that you ended up creating. So possibly Min Heejin does not really have grounds for a lawsuit when it comes to the concept between New Jeans and Illit. Now, the biggest talking point of this letter has to be Bang PD's pettiness, because apparently, he has been ignoring New Jeans. If they greet him, he does not greet back. He doesn't even acknowledge them. Now, this is according to the parents, and apparently this statement is backed up by the members themselves. Their messages do back up the fact that Bang PD has been ignoring them when he sees them. Now, Hybe did try to defend themselves on this one by saying that Bang PD has facial recognition blindness, which nobody's buying it. Honestly, I'm not buying it. And I think it's so stupid that they would come out with a statement like this, because honestly, I'm gonna say this and it might make people a little upset, but Bang PD is in a point in his life where he currently has fuck you money. I know this is not gonna sit well with a lot of people, but Bang PD ignoring a New Jeans is super petty, yes, but he is at a point where it's like he doesn't have to give a shit about anybody. He is the boss, he is that guy. I think it's super rude for him to not acknowledge anybody or the New Jeans members specifically, because it's such a small gesture of respect, of acknowledgement. It's something so small to greet somebody, and for him to choose to ignore them is super, super petty. Now, people did say maybe he confused the girls for staff, and that has also been debunked, I guess, because employees did come out and say that idols and executives use different elevators from the actual employees and that they work in very different spaces. So most of the times you will not see employees in idol spaces, and you're very unlikely to see idols in employee spaces. The parents did, however, convey their sadness and express that it is really disheartening that they can't really do anything about the situation. All they can do is hear from their kids that Bang PD is ignoring them and he's not really acknowledging them or greeting them. They also talk about how the members are still young, they're still kids, and I'm not gonna lie to you, that statement, that line alone upset me more than anything else that was said in this letter, or more than anything else that has happened in the past couple of days. I just think it's so ironic that now they're kids. Because it's so funny, we always talk about don't debut kids into K-pop. If you're gonna debut minors, at least have them be 17, but 18 is ideal. We have seen 16-year-olds debut and still come out fine, but we've also seen people come out on the bad side. They have social anxiety, they have to go to therapy. It's all these things. We always say don't debut kids into K-pop. nobody cares. We keep debuting them younger and younger and younger. And this statement from the parents saying that they're only kids and this whole situation is very disheartening upset me so much, because most of the letter from the parents is basically them defending New Jeans and Min Heejin, but in the process of doing that, you also attacking another group, which is Illit. And they do say that we're talking about B-Lift Lab and we're talking about the adults behind the kids, but you're talking about the Illit name, you're talking about the Illit brand that they're trying to build. And when we talk about Illit, we talk about the kids, we talk about the actual girls that are the group, because they are the face of the name. And unfortunately, that's how people are going to see it. Some people are going to see it as, yes, the adults behind the kids or the adults behind the artist. But some people are just going to look at the girls and say, yeah, they're copycats of New Jeans. They are a copy and paste. They're not original. And I think it's so upsetting that in order to defend one group, we've had to drag so many other groups down, especially Illit, because there's no way that they don't feel a little bit attacked or a little bit disheartened by the whole situation that has happened. I find it incredibly ironic as well that now we're talking about how New Jeans are kids. We didn't talk about how they were kids when they were invited to perform at Lollapalooza. We didn't talk about how they were kids when they became brand ambassadors for really big luxury brands. And we certainly didn't talk about how they were kids when they were attending fashion shows in Paris or Milan or wherever else. So I just find this statement very iffy. This whole fight between Min Heejin and Hybe has really honestly dragged people into this who probably would have rather stayed out of it entirely. And it doesn't help that New Jeans members and the parents are choosing to side with Min Heejin, because should this go really wrong for her, where do New Jeans members stand? Where do their careers stand? Because right now, Park Ji-woon has said that they will possibly have them go on a long vacation while they look for a new producer should Min Heejin be kicked out. Hence, they have shown their support by petitioning the court to stay with Min Heejin, and their parents have allegedly also put in a petition to have their kids stay with Min Heejin. I will say this whole thing of Min Heejin fighting with B-Lift Lab and Hybe to defend the originality and the brand and reputation of New Jeans, I think should have been handled better. It should have been handled internally. I don't think she should have come out and started exposing everything. I do understand her frustration. I do understand the reason for it. When the audit came out, she was just trying to defend herself and Ador as well. But this has snowballed into something a lot bigger than just the initial audit or just Illit copying New Jeans. I just wish that the feud between Hybe and Min Heejin over the Illit and New Jeans copying situation had remained inside of Hybe and had remained an internal feud, as opposed to sharing it with the public and turning it into a bigger story or a bigger problem than it should have been. Because when NMX debuted, they were accused of copying a lot of groups, but I think the main group that they were accused of copying and plagiarizing was ATEEZ, because certain elements, a lot of elements from their music video was almost identical to elements in ATEEZ music videos, their storylines, certain things that ATEEZ had crafted, or the people behind ATEEZ had crafted and worked on for years for the group, had been stolen or plagiarized and copied. And with ATEEZ, it was so much different because it was a pirate concept. Nobody had done a pirate concept ever. And I think a lot of people didn't really see a future with a pirate concept, but they've kept it going for so much longer. And now you see pirate ships or the kind of piratey vibe in other groups, music videos or pictures or anything. And you would have never thought when they debuted with a pirate concept that this would inspire other creators. Now, obviously, we're not talking about copying or anything like that. A pirate concept, pirates are pirates. It's a concept and anybody can use it, obviously. But NMX did end up having a comeback with a totally different style, a totally more original, I guess, to them concept. And this whole thing was basically a fight between fans pointing out that they see the similarities. And KQ chose to stay out of it. They chose to stay quiet and wait for the next comeback to see if things would change or if JYP would just carry on using their concept and using their ideas. So I just wish that Min Heejin had waited to see what Illit would do for their next comeback, because I think it would have saved a lot of people a lot of heartache. Because it also is very clear that Illit Lab and Hybe rushed to debut Illit in order to make use of the momentum that they had from their survival show Are You Next, and make sure that the image of the girls was still fresh in everybody's mind when we debuted them, unlike debuting them a year after the show when people had already forgotten who they were. I think New Jeans and Illit are a perfect example of why it is a bad idea to debut minors into a K-pop industry that is mostly about profit. It is a very cutthroat, very iffy kind of industry, but if you succeed, then you're less likely to see the bad side. But when things go wrong, unfortunately in K-pop, things go very, very wrong. Now, whether this turns out well for Min Heejin and New Jeans, or if it turns out well for Hybe, I am looking forward to seeing how they move forward from this whole situation. Because if Min Heejin gets to stay in Ador with New Jeans, how is that going to work with Hybe after she basically just threw the company under the bus, saying that they chart manipulate, they push albums, and all those other things? I honestly think if they're going to investigate Hybe for album pushing and for chart manipulation, then everybody should get investigated. All of the subsidiaries should get investigated for chart manipulation, album pushing, but especially payola and playlisting. I think those two need to be hand in hand with the others, because New Jeans has been accused many times of playlisting and of payola. So I think if we're going to do the one, we should do the other. Both parties have until the 24th of May to submit evidence to back up their sides in terms of whether Hybe will vote at the shareholders meeting or if they will be banned from voting. Now again, these are just my opinions and you are free to share yours with me in the comments. Please subscribe and hit the like button if you liked this video, and if you want to see more just like it. But until our next dance with K-pop, goodbye.